Hello and welcome to this edition of Wineskins. I'm Father Jim Korda. Wineskins is a program that features reflections on the lives of the saints and the sacred scriptures, along with a variety of issues and topics, all from a Catholic perspective. Wineskins is brought to you through the annual Diocesan Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts, a division of the Society of St. Paul. On our program today, I will interview Ed Reese. We will also hear more information on St. John Paul II. And today, as the Church celebrates the 29th Sunday in Ordinary Time, we will get a deeper insight into those particular Sunday readings. That and more on Wineskins. Catholic Charities is an important part of the life of the Church and her members. To share with us an important issue is Rick Squier. Joining me on Wineskins is Rick Squier, who is the Executive Director of Catholic Charities for both Portage and Stark counties. Welcome to Wineskins.
Thank you, Father. Pleasure being here.
You know, you've been with Catholic Charities just a little over a year now, and I'm sure you have a wealth of experience over that year with all of the needs that are out there that you meet, particularly in Portage and in Stark counties. Tell us a little bit about some of those needs and what has been prevalent in response to Catholic Charities in those counties.
So what we get on a daily basis are calls in Canton and in Ravenna. And those calls range in need from basic utility assistance to food assistance to assistance that's far beyond what we're able to offer. However, we are able to refer people on to other agencies based on the parameters of their income and their parameters of their need. One of the biggest things that I think we do and what our case managers do is they hear people when they call. We stand there representing the Catholic Church in listening, and sometimes that is the biggest gift that we can give. Sure, we pay utility payments and help with rent and do all of those things, but we also let our clients know that somebody on the other end of the line is hearing what they have to say and empathizes with what they're going through.
You know, what I'd like to talk about is that whole parish involvement. You know, the bulk of the money that Charities receives is in that annual diocesan appeal, and so that really comes from the parishes. What does the parish do, and what do you want the parish to do for Catholic Charities?
Sure. Our engagement with the parish, I think, is one of the biggest responsibilities we have, not just to the people that we serve, but also to parishioners that we represent in the world. First and foremost, of course, the diocesan appeal is very, very important to us. It is the majority of our funding. But also, we welcome people in to volunteer with us. We'd love to have them in our offices at our adult day services in Louisville to come in and to minister with us. We have services out of our Ravenna office where we have volunteers that actually come in and work with people that receive food on a regular basis. They're the ones they're the face of the food pantry for our Ravenna office. And we hope to do that, something very similar to that in Canton, where people can come in and volunteer. We have volunteer opportunities, but actually volunteer and participate with the people that we are serving. So we would love to see anybody that wants to be involved to come in and serve with us.
I know when I speak to the other executive directors of Catholic Charity, that need continues to grow, and especially since this post-pandemic time that we're in, how has that need grown in Portage and in Stark counties?
Sure. The bills that we see are simply much, much higher than what we had seen even just a year ago. A year ago, we saw, utility statements that were, in the several hundred. Now we're seeing utility payments that are over $1,000. So that's a huge challenge for us. Rent is also going up, and we see a lot of people, rent increases are just simply putting them out of housing because they can't continue. They're in a shoestring budget to begin with. When rent goes up, the shoestrings only stretch so far. That's when we step in with food assistance and utility assistance and can help with some other places. That's where we kind of go when things are really stretched beyond where people's budgets can meet. We see that on a daily basis, people calling and are beyond what they're able to pay for utilities and rent.
In your ministering to people, and that really is a ministry that you're involved with, what do you find the most gratifying for yourself personally when you reach out in the Lord's name through Catholic Charities.
And this sounds maybe selfish to a degree, but when you feel that you've met the need that they called for, and sometimes it's not the saying we can pay this utility payment, but when you say this is the phone number that they should be able to help you because they've got government funding, and they go, oh, well, thank you so much for giving me that. Have a wonderful day. And you can add on the end of that, well, God bless you and best of luck to you. And when you feel that there is peace on the other end of the phone line, that's when it's most gratifying. The staff members, the same thing. When they find peace in somebody else's response, when the end of the phone call is one of peace, that's when we've done the job that we're called to do in the name of Jesus.
Well, Rick Squier, Executive Director of Catholic Charities for both Portage and Stark counties here in the Diocese of Youngstown, I thank you, first of all, for being here on Wineskins and for sharing your ministry with us. We look forward to your presence again, and certainly know we of Wineskins want to express our blessings to you and your staff who do such a wonderful job reaching out in the Lord's name to those who are most in need.
Thank you so much.
For Wineskins, I'm Father Jim Korda. St. John Paul II was one of the longest reigning popes in church history. To tell us more is Alaina Chepke. She is from St. Joseph Church in Austintown.
At the time of his death on April 2nd, 2005, devotion to Pope John Paul II was already widespread, and cries of Santo Subito, Saint now, rose spontaneously in St. Peter's Square following his passing. He was beatified by Pope Benedict XVI before a crowd of over 1 million people on May 1st, 2011, in front of St. Peter's Basilica. Beatified individuals are not typically inscribed on the Church's universal calendar, but an exception was made on behalf of Blessed John Paul II. He was elected to the papacy on October 16, 1978, and on October 22nd began his ministry as shepherd of the Universal Church. As Pope, he made 146 pastoral visits in Italy, and as Bishop of Rome, he visited 317 of the 332 parishes in Rome. The apostolic trips he made throughout the world, an expression of his constant pastoral solicitude as successor of St. Peter for the whole Church, added up to a total of 104. Among the primary documents which he wrote are 14 encyclicals, 15 apostolic exhortations, 11 apostolic constitutions, and 45 apostolic letters. He also wrote numerous other works, including 5 books. He presided over 147 beatifications, declaring 1,338 beatified and 51 canonizations, proclaiming a total of 482 saints. He also officiated in 9 consistories, thereby creating 232 cardinals, and presided at 6 plenary reunions of the College of Cardinals. On May 13, 1981, Pope John Paul II was the victim of an attack in St. Peter's Square. Having been saved by the maternal hand of the Mother of God and following a long recovery, he forgave the attacker. Grateful for the gift of new life, he intensified his pastoral work with heroic generosity in spite of the Parkinson's disease, which ultimately led to his demise. He inaugurated moments of particular spiritual intensity, such as the Year of Redemption, the Marian Year, and the Eucharistic Year, as well as the Great Jubilee of the year 2000. He also attacked younger generations by the celebration of World Youth Days. No other pope has encountered as many people as John Paul II. Numerous government officials were also received in audience. There were 38 official visits and a further 738 audiences and meetings with heads of state, along with 246 visits with prime ministers. John Paul II died in the Vatican's Apostolic Palace on Saturday, April 2nd, 2005 at 9:37 p.m. on the Vigil of Divine Mercy Sunday, which he had instituted. On April 8th, John Paul II was buried in the Vatican Grotto following the solemn funeral celebration in St. Peter's Square. He was canonized by Pope Francis, along with St. John the 23rd, on April 27, 2014. In the opening prayer of Mass, there are 2 items of note. In the first line, we find the phrase, "rich in mercy," which in Latin is the title of St. John Paul II's 1980 encyclical. It is only fitting that he who canonized Sister Faustina of Divine Mercy fame, who established the Feast of Divine Mercy for the Universal Church, and who died on the vigil and was beatified on the feast, would have the phrase, "rich in mercy," in the opening prayer of the Mass in his honor. Second, the last line contains the phrase, "Redeemer of Mankind," the title of his very first encyclical letter in 1979, the one that would set the tone for his entire pontificate. Its opening words are, "The Redeemer of man, Jesus Christ, is the center of the universe and of history." How fitting that he, who had dedicated his long life and unspeakable suffering to spreading the message of the mercy and saving grace of Christ, should be remembered in such a profound and relevant way. For Wineskins, I'm Alaina Chepke.
Hello and welcome to Spotlight. I'm Father Jim Korda. Today we're going to talk about senior care, and joining me is Mr. Ed Reese, who is the CEO of EDM Management. Ed, it's a pleasure to have you on our show today.
Hi, Father. Good to see you again.
You know, I've known you for a long time, and I know you've been involved in so many things in our community. We're going to talk about some of those things today. For the folks that are with us that may not know you as well, maybe you can give them a little idea of who you are, your background, and where you went to school.
Born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio. I was born on the south side, baptized at St. Matthias over on the hill, and then right in before first grade, our family moved into the Cornersburg area, attended St. Christine's first grade through 8, 1 through 8, went to Korda High School. And my background in the Catholic school system, and it's been great. And I went to college at Youngstown State, and I graduated at Bowling Green State University with a degree in gerontology, a study of aging. And I had the opportunity to come back to Youngstown, and was very happy about that. Didn't think that was going to happen back in the early 80s and such, but came back, and the community has been great to myself and my family. We have a company now we call EDM Management that has senior care. We have 7 facilities, 2 skilled nursing facilities. We're building our 3rd one as we speak. It show up next month in Boardman. And then we have 5 assisted living facilities in town. We have land development. We got some land we're going to develop. We have rental apartments. We have a food service division, all based out of Mahoney County. So
we're going to talk a little bit more about some of those specifically in a moment, but I'd like to go back to Catholic education. You went to Cardinal Mooney, and education, at least for us as Catholics, is really important. Going to Catholic school, what has that done to help you in your faith, but also in your life?
Catholic schools, my father was a big proponent of Catholic schools. He had all the sacraments at St. Pat's on the south side. Went to St. Pat's, installed that in all of us. My sister Marianne Hazika just retired after 40 years of St. Christine's, teaching at St. Christine's. The whole 12 years of Catholic schools brought togetherness. I think that's really important in life. A lot of the friends that I have now, I have since 2nd grade, some in high school. I've just met a lot of great families, and the togetherness, I think, would be the word that maybe would describe what I got out of the Catholic schools for 12 years. It was important, and it's important in life. As we get older and we go through different stages of life, knowing people are there for support in many different ways. You know, I was in the political arena, business arena, and just things in life that happen to you that, you know, people would know you, maybe put you a little pat on the back, or you don't want to just disappoint your 3rd grade teacher, you know, something like that down the road. But it's important. It was very important, and still is very important in my life.
You know, Catholic institutions like schools, like our hospitals, like our nursing homes, you know, it's all about relationships. And why are relationships so important for us? And even in your business, you come in contact with a lot of people, and you create relationships that become lasting. Why are those so important?
because you never know what life's going to throw at you. You know, this past year being a great example of what's gone on. Everyone has been touched by this pandemic, and at the beginning in our industry, it was terrible. And we see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel now, but it was just nobody knew how to react. We relied on each other in our industry. We relied on each other in just on day to day. We had to believe in ourselves that we were doing the best for our residents and the community, and in regards like the spreading possibilities, and it was really important in regards of especially for this past year.
Yeah. Let's go back to your business. It's EDM Management. What does that stand for?
Acronym for our three children. Diane and I's three children, Eddie, Danny, Mackenzie. It's very simple. Yeah.
And so family is important.
Yes, sir.
You know, it's interesting when you talk, whenever I have a guest on and I hear certain things, many things come to mind, whether it's something that's happened in the past where I recall someone you mentioned or something you've done or some institution. And so those things come to mind. And it's really important for us to remember those things because over the years, these people give us life. And obviously your children are important to you. How are they involved in your business?
Our oldest son, Eddie, is involved. He's really wearing many hats as the son, but his position is Director of Development. Diane and I are giving him more responsibility as the years go on. Our middle child is Danny, and he's on the basketball staff at Youngstown State University, Director of Basketball Operations, lives in town with his wife, Michelle. Son Danny just turned 5, daughter Eloise just turned 2, and our third grandchild's on the way in the middle of May. And young Danny, my grandchild, is the third generation at St. Christine's. He's at preschool with Miss Durkin, and we're all proud of that. And then our daughter, Mackenzie, is working with us also in the corporate office, helping me out a lot, trying to organize me, and learning the business also, different aspects of the business.
Let's go back to your wife, Diane. For the taping, you had mentioned to me, and I really didn't know this, that she's a convert.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. What was it that drew her? I always like to use the term, someone's loved into the Catholic faith. What drew her to that?
Well, as you were surprised when I said that she hasn't been a lifelong Catholic. A lot of people were. Just from the beginning of our dating, having her around the church, meeting our friends, she's just a person, as you know, just gets right into it. Whether it's been our church or the schools, she's been there helping out in any way that's needed. Most recently was one of the co-chairs of the capital campaign for St. Christine's Church. Was very instrumental in raising some money, which is a good thing because we needed it like any church does for infrastructure and renovations and everything. So, but yeah, a lot of people are surprised that I always say she's more Catholic than a lot of people.
For more pertinent information and to listen to Wineskins, visit www.doi.org, the website of the Catholic Diocese of Youngstown. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
On December the 8th, 1854, in Paris, France, a woman by the name of Marie-Claire Bouliveau founded a community of religious whose purpose was adoration of Jesus in the Eucharist. In 1856, solemn exposition was permitted in their monastery. This date marks the beginning of perpetual adoration in the order of Poor Clares of Perpetual Adoration. Mother Marie Claire chose Thanksgiving as her special end. She wrote, "Is it not right that the Eucharistic love of Jesus be glorified by unremitting thanksgiving?" It is in that spirit of thanksgiving that her daughters faithfully continue to glorify God through dedication to perpetual adoration.
"33 million Americans have descended into poverty. And as their futures fall, so does our nation's." Church World Service believes that being self-reliant is a joy everyone should share. So around the block or around the world, share the joy.
Our song today is from the CD called Do Not Be Afraid. It is by Charities.
Shelter of the Lord. say to the Lord, my refuge, my rock in whom I trust, and he will raise you up on eagle's wings. There you are, the breath of dawn, make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of his hand. The snare of the fowler will never capture you, and famine will bring you no fear. Under his wings your refuge, his faithfulness your shield, and he will raise you up on eagle's wings. There you are, the breath of dawn, make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of his hand. For to his angels he's given a command to guard you in all of your ways. Upon their hands they will bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone. And he will raise you up on eagle's wings. There you are, the breath of dawn, make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of his hand. And hold you in the palm of his hand.
As we celebrate this 29th Sunday in Ordinary Time, we will hear more about the sacred scriptures by Father Dan Finnerty. He is pastor of Assumption Church in Geneva.
Our reading today from Exodus recalls the story of Moses lifting his arms up in order for the Israelites to do well in battle. But when he grows tired, he needs help to keep them up in order to win the day. Only with actual support is Moses able to keep them up. There's an important spiritual lesson here for us. When one grows weary, they become complacent and want to give up. When we find ourselves growing tired spiritually, do we give up and keep going it alone? Or do we seek and accept help from other people, from the angels and saints to support us, to ease our burden, or to walk the path with us? Looking at today's gospel and the story of the widow and the judge, we might wonder, how long did this widow ask? What were the details of her request? What is certain was that it was worth the persistence. She did so because she was certain that the judge, despite being dishonest and not caring about actual justice, would eventually give in, if nothing but for his own peace of mind. If she believed that she would not get her decision, she would have given up. And if she did give up, then her chances of getting her just decision would be 0. we must remember that she is a widow, meaning that her options are very limited, and she is in a very vulnerable position. Yet she trusts enough that this dishonest judge will come through. And then Jesus brings it back to us. Do we trust enough that God, who is truth and love, will come through? How persistent are our prayers and faith? What are these things that might make us weary? It could be a struggle with some pain or hurt, a bad financial situation, bad relationships, struggles with addiction or some sin, worries about politics or the future in general. What will become of all those things? How and when will they be solved? And we can't be sure. But without faith and persistence in praying to God, any chance of God answering prayers becomes zero. How can you receive if you do not ask? And if you ask but once or twice, then how important is your prayer and faith? We pray for many things and for many people, but whatever they are, there is something that should always be a part of our prayer, something that we should never grow tired of asking. Pray that you might always remain faithful to the truths of the gospel, to remain faithful to Jesus Christ, and to always be persistent, to ask and to remain faithful to His guidance, so that even if we become weary, we are still persistent that God will hear and answer our prayers. For Wineskins, I'm Father Daniel Finnerty. Have a blessed Sunday.
Many people pray fervently when they are worried. Concerns about family and health and injustice inspire us to lift up our hearts and hands in prayer to God. How does the Holy Spirit use worry to lead you to pray? Wineskins is a production of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Youngstown. It is brought to you by the annual Diocesan Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts. I'm your host, Father Jim Korda, wishing you a beautiful week.
What have you done for your marriage today?
I gave my wife a hug this morning. I told her I love her.
I did her hair this morning. I think it looks pretty good.
I cooked my husband's favorite breakfast.
I bought her an orchid.
What have I done for my marriage today? I sent my husband a love email.
I read the newspaper to my wife, and it cracked her up. But she's still laughing.
What have you done for your marriage today? Make a change for the better. Need help? Go to foryourmarriage.org, a message from the Catholic Church.
They say America is the land of opportunity, but for some, life isn't so easy. Right now in America, 1 in 6 children lives below the poverty line. That's nearly 13 million children of all races, all across our country. Where do you draw the line and get involved? You can make a difference in more ways than you think. Go to povertyusa.org today, because 1 in 6 children in poverty is one too many. A message from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development.